and welcome everyone to a Women's Biz Summit. Today we are going to be talking all things e-commerce. Oh my goodness, we're going to be talking e-commerce for 12 hours straight. It's a good thing that I stay peppy all the time. I'm Annie Gibbins, the founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. For those of you who do not know me yet, we will get to know each other really well over the next few hours because the lineup of speakers is absolutely stellar. Let me just tell you, we have 24 speakers from around the globe. They're going to be coming in and out every 30 minutes for 12 hours. And I know that all of our delegates are going to be coming, going, according to those people they've seen on the program. They're going to get dazzled. They're going to stay a little bit longer. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to come on in, and we are going to have so much fun today. I also want to make sure that you are putting your details in the chat. So make sure that you use this opportunity as a connect, share opportunity. Put all of your details, your LinkedIn links, your website, if you like that. Say hello, cheer everyone on. Definitely ask questions because we've got such amazing speakers, and I want you to get so much value out of this summit. So we are going to kick off today's summit by having our beautiful Babita Spinelli. Oh my goodness, frontline speaker to kick us all off today. Babita, for those of you who don't know her, is an internationally recognized award-winning psychotherapist. She's an executive coach. She's a mental health consultant, a relationship expert. Oh my goodness, this lady knows people, and she knows them intimately, personally, and she knows how to bring the best out of them. She focuses on helping people to optimize their relationships and to thrive in life. And who doesn't want to do that? She's all about working with heart-centered businesses to help them grow, be successful. That's why we're all here today. We all have businesses, either startups, scale-ups. We might be dominating a business. We can always learn something new. We're all coming from different spaces, and I'm looking forward to her sharing today. She's also been a former lawyer and a Wall Street executive. Oh my goodness, this woman has just done so much in her time. So let's just kick it off. Babita, welcome to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Annie. What a nice introduction. I so appreciate it, and it is so exciting to be here.
Such a joy to have you here. And I know you've been on my other summits, and I just always look forward to sharing with you because you just have so much wisdom and you make things sound really simple and calm. So I'm going to kick off by asking you a question. What inspired you to start your own business? Here you are, a Wall Street lawyer, and then suddenly you've gone into this whole other area of executive coaching, psychotherapy. Oh my goodness. How did you actually make that decision to do that and identify, well, what's your new niche, and how are you going to find a new target market that's going to really help you sort of in the next chapter of your professional journey?
Sure. I mean, it was really challenging. I think doing a career transition later in life, being a parent, a single parent, going through a divorce, and then saying, I'm not really feeling as fulfilled in my corporate career, even when you're successful. It was very challenging. But one of the things that I think was important that made me make the switch is I just realized I have many years to wake up every day and want to feel fulfilled and happy. And I also realized that skill sets are transferable. It's never too late to go back and re-educate yourself the way I did, went back to 5 years of training. And also to feel like you could do it one step at a time. I mean, I didn't just suddenly say, now I'm quitting my job, not getting a paycheck and doing this. I was like Wall Street by day. I started to educate myself, and then I started to build, my practice. So that was something that I thought was a real gem for me to recognize and realize how important that was. It was a little bit less stressful because I just took it one step at a time. And I also knew that my niche areas would probably be something around relationships, having been through, my divorce and how difficult that was. I also knew that there was something about corporate America that I wanted to make sure I brought to the forefront, and to work with individuals in corporate America, lawyers and executives who really struggle with finding that balance in terms of their personal relationships and in terms of being leaders. So that's how it all started. And I said, wow, I really like that. I really like, I'm interested in human behavior and I'm going to do this. So that's just a little bit of it in a nutshell, making that decision.
It's a huge leap. It's an absolutely huge leap. So I just love your boldness and your passion to just follow, what's truly going to make you happy, what's going to make you to show up every day and go, you know what, I love this and I can help others and it's the right place to me. In that time, though, you must have found some really big challenges, So if here you are, suddenly you've gone from corporate lawyer to businesswoman, really. And so what have been your biggest challenges during that time, becoming then a businesswoman and also an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome them?
Gosh, so many challenges. And I say that not to deter anyone from becoming a business owner and an entrepreneur, but to say that to normalize that challenges exist, but to just keep going and show compassion. I mean, some of mine were switching the mindset from the employee, paycheck, this is what you get, this is how much goes into your 401k, et cetera. This is what my day looks like, to really switching the mindset in terms of being a business owner and an entrepreneur. It takes a lot of work to think and to try and realize that you set your structure, right? You have to almost see this as an investment. Your relationship to money changes because sometimes that can cause anxiety. So one of my challenges was recognizing I had to switch how I see things. I had to really switch the way I look and view being a business owner and entrepreneur and move away from the full-time, I work in a structured environment, to saying I am creating this. And then this is what I need to do to kind of create something that's going to work for me. The other challenge was not comparing myself to others and their journey. That happens a lot. I realize also, and I think as business owners and entrepreneurs, and especially now with all the social media and everything, we tend to compare. So one of my challenges was not comparing and saying, okay, I just have to learn that choose the individuals and that inspire me, see it not as a comparison, but see it as a way that I might want to model my practice and my organization and my business, and maybe continue to learn and use them as also resources, and recognize that that could actually be a benefit. And then I'd say the other challenge was often time, feeling like I had to do and be everything to everyone all the time. And realizing that as a business owner and entrepreneur, it's a pace, not a race, and being a little bit more intentional about my time and realizing that that can be a challenge. And I think a lot of times for business owners, entrepreneurs starting out, there just doesn't feel like there's enough time, right? I mean, literally you could be doing something every day. And so my challenge was to make sure that I took a pause and going back to that space of being grounded and structuring and doing that with more intention. So those were some of the big challenges. And then I would say, oh, here's one that was a challenge. What, coming from a particular family and culture, people being a little surprised. You want to leave corporate America and you want to be a business owner, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a psychotherapist. So really kind of leaning into your own confidence and your own truth, because sometimes there's a lot of noise in terms of doing this. And I think that's important to just take that pause and realize if this is something that you really want and is going to bring you joy, to try not to feel that you have to go, succumb to the noise, so to speak. So I really had to learn to step away from that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can just imagine what all of your family and friends have actually gone and said. They're like, what are you doing? Because you have stability. You've got a guaranteed income. You just show up every day. You've worked hard to get to where you are. And so it is such a massive, big, bold step to actually move on and leave that. So first of all, I can just imagine how hard that must have been. Also, I just love your points there. How much does your money mindset just get fried when you first become an entrepreneur, because you know what I mean, like you've gone from this guarantee to suddenly like, I really, really need to start believing in the abundance, of believing that things will actually come my way. Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. We could unpack that for hours. I think the time is absolutely huge, and I'd love people to keep chatting, putting that in the chat as well, as to how you felt about that, because time management, that's it. Once you start going into business of your own, you can then you can spend 24/7 on on pretty much anything, and it just robs you of your time. So what are some of your tips then on overcoming those challenges that you can share with our delegates today?
Oh, sure. There's so many. I mean, looking at the relationship to time. Let's start there, which is really significant. And I've heard this also from my own clients. I'm sure you've heard this, right, Annie? And so I would say this. I would say try and create time as a friend versus as an enemy. I think we often have a mindset, I don't have enough time. There isn't enough time. I don't have enough time, right? So first start off with saying, like, if time is my friend and I have to really think about my business and being an entrepreneur, what would the ideal time that I spent look like? Really think about, like, what would that be like? And try and then re-engineer backwards once you have that in your mind, in your framework. And try not to compare to like how much others invest in terms of time. I'd also use the tip of carving out, really try and sort of carving out the chunks of time. If you're someone that is helpful to calendar your time in terms of what you're going to be doing for your business. For example, there is a chunk of time that I make sure I have all the time for maybe working with my operations team, for speaking with my interns, some of the admin stuff, and then I make sure there's a chunk of time that where I'm actually, the subject matter expert and with my clients, and then I have a chunk of time which is my self-care time, family time, things like that. So I would say really think about how you want to take control over your time. This kind of talks also about boundaries when we think about time. Often going back to the challenge, when I first started out, I mean, I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. I mean, I remember being up at like midnight. Oh, I didn't do this, or oh, I didn't do that. It's a very normal thing. And I would say, over time, really think about what really is a priority and realize, pace yourself and realize you'll lean into burnout if you don't. So now I'm very careful about setting boundaries with my time. So those are just some time tips. And I think the other thing, just one more thing around time, which is important because we could talk about this for hours, is just remembering like what brings you also joy. And remembering what time of the day do you feel like you have the most energy and what time do you need to restore. As a business owner, think about what are your optimal times where you feel like you are sharpest. Don't try and push yourself when you know that you're feeling a little tired. Use that time instead to rest, to nourish, to hydrate, take a walk, whatever it is. So use your time wisely, thinking about what is in your best interest around time. So those are the time tips. Money.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to move on to you then starting your business. You've gone from corporate, you've gone to starting up your own business, you've become a psychotherapist. You then have to then start doing all those normal challenging things, such as creating a strong online presence, making sure that people know about your business. So while you're juggling, all the mechanics, that's a huge thing. How did you actually approach that? And suddenly, because that requires you seeing yourself in a different way. When you've gone from being an employee to then suddenly an entrepreneur, a small business owner, you're then really going to have to go, right, I'm going to have to get into marketing myself and my business. Talk us through how you approach that.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. I think for me, it all started off with one business and now I have two. So I think that's an important distinction because it shows like how I built the brand and the online presence. I first started off really just focusing on psychotherapy with some coaching. And so the marketing of that was, yes, there was still an online presence, but it started off with, okay, I need to make sure I have a website. I need to make sure that I do what's called SEO, search engine optimization. I need to be found. I also need to, so I need to kind of figure out who might be the individuals, because I'm just starting out, that I can do that within my budget. So that goes back to that money piece. The money tip is really thinking about your budget. And there's always someone out there who can be helpful, whether it's someone that's an independent contractor, whether it's someone that can, help with that and you do it on your own. And what I started to do also online is I started to think about what are the directories where my clients would be the ones that they would look at those directories. Where what do they read? What are they looking at online? Where do they go? Those were the three main things for that business that I started to do in terms of my psychotherapy and then my coaching practice. That started to build that online presence. I like to write. I like to write blogs. Not everybody wants to do that. So my online presence also came from doing some writing. As I started to write, I started to get reach outs from like the Washington Post, Mind Body Green, etc. That started to then build my online presence. Now I'm saying, wow, this is going great. I want another business that I can now advise corporations and organizations, being a former Wall Streeter and a lawyer and law firms. And I want to do some consulting. How do I build that online presence, right? So I took my brand in terms of what I already had. And I decided not everybody needs to do this. I'm going to do another website. But then what I started to do is I started to really look a little bit more at social media. And because, this is like years now over time. And I realized what are the spaces that my ideal clients and the companies I want to work for, what platforms are they on? Because you can't really be everything to everyone. And sometimes you're throwing spaghetti on a wall when you start right early on. And I was like, wow, for me, LinkedIn is really powerful. Instagram ended up being really powerful. Facebook was powerful. So I started to really think, for some people, it's TikTok. For some people, it's something else, right? It's Twitter. And so what I started to do was I started to work on building the social media with help platforms and started to really message and create resources to build the online presence, to see I am someone that offers something of value before trying to push services, because you want to be seen as the expert. And then I started to create product, which some people see in the shop, as to some of those things, and started to build from there. So those are just some of the things that I started to do. And then I started to refer to people, they would refer to me, and co-collaborate, which also builds the online presence when you start to do that. And then last but not least, I also like to speak, and some business owners and entrepreneurs might like that, some people don't. But what I started to do is, if I got a reach out to speak, or I saw a podcast that I liked, I'd be like, hey, I would be so happy to talk about this. And then you just sort of build from there, because you start to get known. So those are just some of the things that I did to build the online presence and the brand.
Oh, I love that. I've written in the chat for everyone there, and please put your own comments as well as Babita's speaking here. Be present to increase your presence, right? I love the way you just went, I just started showing up, and that's what we've all got to do. You just start showing up, writing about things, speaking about things. If you're wanting to be that voice of authority, that thought leader, that person that people are aware of, you've kind of got to just, start showing up, and then other people will suddenly be attracted to that. I also love what you shared there, Babita, of going, where would I like to speak? If something interests you, if there's a podcast, if there's another opportunity with something, reach out to them. Go, if I can add value to you, please let me know. I'd love to contribute there. Another gem too, and I've been writing them down in the chat just for as I'm listening to you as well, is to know where your peeps are, right? I love what you said there of, you don't need to be everything to everybody. So true. But where are your people hanging out? And I think that is just such a learning curve for all of us of, well, are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Like what forum are your people hanging out in? And therefore be present there. It's just such a huge learning curve. And I know those listening in will be challenging themselves in those areas. The great thing I found, Babita, is, you can just try, get yourself into a few different forums and just see what the return is. You can find your own way. There's no disasters in that, I believe. Now, one final question before we move on to some questions from our audience is that, well, how do you balance that need for growth and expansion? As you continue to grow your business, you're offering more services, you want to grow, you want to expand, but you also need to make sure that you stay true to your core. You want to be financially stable. You don't want to have risk there. How have you approached that sort of scenario?
Yeah, and that's such a great question, because it is such a learning around that too. I would say one of the things that I think was really important is I started to really think about what is my return on investment. I think early on, you're trying to, get the word out, and you're trying to also have a business, right? I mean, and it's a scary, scary thing. But over time, I started to really think about, where's my best return on investment and the use of my energy, and where am I best serving the individuals that I want to? So what I started to do is really think about how much energy and time and resources and money I was putting into particular areas of my business, and then saying, okay, I kind of need to take measure of this and say, doing this, maybe this just brings me pure joy and I want to do it. Great. Maybe I've been spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm so depleted. I'm not even sure I'm really happy doing this. And I've had no impact on anyone, essentially, if that's what you want, or no one, if someone's selling a product, no one's bought it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of look at that and say, it is okay to realize you need to shift. And so when you think about growing, think about your ROI, think about your return on investment. So that's like the first thing. I would also think about in terms of, and that helps you in terms of your bottom line and your financial piece, right? Because if you're putting in 90% and your return is 10%, you have to really think about that, right?
Yes.
Right. And you also have to think, am I growing where I want to grow? And what does that bring to me? So for example, for me, I'm sitting in, and maybe this will change. My business model right now is I am the solo person in terms of the subject, right? I'm the one that actually speaks, that travels, that does the speaking, that works with clients. But I've got people in the background to help me, because I realize I need someone to help me with my marketing and my operations, my VAs, those kinds of things, right? So I can grow, and I'm growing, because that's okay, because I've got other people to help me. I think the challenge that can happen that I would suggest people be mindful of is, if you're growing and you want to have other people that are going to help you, you want a partner, or you want other people to do the work that you do, then that's great. Then you think, okay, this is our financial piece. This is what we're each making, and this is how we're going to grow. But think about, if you're a solopreneur, really think about, can you keep up with the growth? And how much do you want to grow that makes it still financially viable? Like, what is your number? And get comfortable with that. And so I think there's a couple of ways to really look at this, and people might have questions or need clarity around what I'm saying. Try to be careful about the business growing so fast that you are so burnt out that you can't keep up with it. Sometimes everyone's like, that's a great problem, but you can lead to burnout, and you have to be a little mindful. Think about how you want to grow, and just make sure you have your number to make your ends meet, and have a little bit of something that is like your little frosting, so you're not like sitting feeling extremely stressed out.
Oh, such good advice, because it's so easy when you get excited, once you start getting that momentum in your business, to go, oh, I could offer this and this and this, and you can actually grow too fast. And this is where many businesses unravel. There's a massive difference for that shift between a startup and a scale up, and doing that right. I love what you've said there of just really knowing how you're going to measure that success, and so some things can be actually just well, let's give it a go, let's have a try. And then other times it's like, I've got a whole lot of things happening, and now I have to maintain them. If you're going to do any little extra area of your business, it's then, well, how are you going to maintain that to the standard, to the quality? So I love this whole discussion, Babita, of, giving things a go, and trying new opportunities, whether it's a new course or speaking or whatever. Definitely, try different avenues of your business and definitely securing additional revenue sources, but also knowing how you're going to measure those. I'd love to know from those in the summit. Also, if you've got any questions that you would love to ask Babita, definitely unmute yourself and let us know what those questions are.
Well, I did, first of all, Annie, I'm in the 262 book project.
Yes.
And I saw you in there, and I'm so excited to learn more about you and all of the people in this group, and also the store that you're all involved in. I'm very interested in that as well, because I'm an artist. And I do custom work as well, custom design work, custom glass work, and also I have my own store on my website. But I'd love to connect, and also I'm looking forward to doing a podcast with you sometime if we have some common ground, and I could bet in, you know, what I have to say could benefit your group, because that's what's really important, is that your people receive a message from me that is helpful to them. So I'm just looking forward to lots of things about getting to know you, Annie, as well as everyone else. And of course, I know the wonderful Deborah Drummond quite well. What an amazing leader. But I also, and Tony Lontis, oh my gosh, I want to just hug her so much. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the whole day. Just so you know, there's a very prestigious juried art show, and I'm under the gun, and I have to get to the studio and get ready to submit for that show, or I'm going to miss the deadline, which is why I'll be back and forth throughout the day. So
totally
anyway, thank you for doing this wonderful series and summit. I think it's amazing. I'll just say goodbye now.
Okay, Susan, it's great to have you join us, and thank you for that. Many of us come through different connections, and that's what I absolutely love about this women rising together. We're all about collaboration over competition. We're all about seeing where those synergies lie, and definitely use those opportunities. If you see people on this summit, definitely just put it in the chat or reach out to me afterwards, and I can connect you with each other. Definitely, those of us with summit, with podcasts. I have a TV show. I've got a podcast. I've got a magazine, and I know many of you listening in through this summit also have your own avenues of sharing each other's presence and wisdom and expertise. So definitely use these opportunities to, where it resonates, to make those connections. I always love having any of you on my program. I love what you shared there too, Susan, about, you know, Deb Drummond. Yes, Deb's coming up as a speaker very soon. Amazing, absolutely amazing lady, and I'm part of her upcoming book as well. And through those networks, I love it when you actually do that, or Leadership Global, who I'm partnered with as well. Through these networks, you know, we suddenly realize that we know so many people in our networks, and then we grow our networks as well. I know my network has grown from like probably 10,000 to 35,000 just over COVID because of those networks. And so the wonderful thing is that you're not competing with each other. You're actually just getting to know who's there, and if things are of value and they resonate with people, they'll find you in that space. And I'm a true believer for that. So you don't have to be all salesy. You don't have to be worrying about poaching people or people poaching yours and things like that. You know, in modern day business, I'm all about women being able to just sort of say, you know what, I'm showing up as my best self. This is my business. This is the value that I offer. And if that is valuable to someone else, you know, you should be like a magnet. That's what I specialize in, helping people create magnetic brands that attract abundance. And oh my goodness, don't we all want that? So I thank you for those comments. I love what you also shared there, Susan, of the shop. So for those of you who aren't aware, I've just launched Women's Biz Shopping. So it's womensbizshopping.com. All of the speakers throughout this summit have already created a store. So it's by women for women shopping. So anyone can actually create a store for free. My entrepreneurial and philanthropic heart sort of is combined here, that I want to know that women all around the world could actually create their own store, because it costs money to have to host a store, pay for that domain and things of that nature. Now, while many of you do have excellent websites and things like that, you can also double up and have that extra opportunity by being able to sell products and services through the Women's Biz Shopping store. But you can also, for those people who might be listening in and go, you know what, I'm a brand new startup and I don't even have that sort of ability to be able to do that yet, you can actually just create one in Women's Biz Shopping, and then we can then be that store for you. So make sure that people are aware of that. And also I will pop some links in so that you can check out the store as we go along today. So I thank you, Susan, for doing that. I'd love you to tell us also then how you stay up to date. While you're so busy working in your business, it's really important for you to stay, you know, you're a psychotherapist, you've got to make sure that you stay up to date with your skills, your expertise, your knowledge base. You've also got to do your own, you know, continual professional development to make sure that you're cutting edge in what you're offering. Is that a challenge for you? And do you have like a percentage that you actually, you know, put into that for time working on yourself as well as your business? How do you approach that one?
Yeah, no, great question. Yes, it's definitely a demand in what I do to be up to date. Absolutely. I think one of the things for me, because there's so much that constantly comes our way, I think people get bombarded also in their emails and stuff. I like to really think about maybe 2 or 3 sources that I pick 3 sources that I feel are very beneficial to me, that are constantly bringing me up to date. Maybe it's things that are going on clinically. It might be some particular resources around mental health and mindset. And then I always like to stay up to date on what's happening with like leadership and in the corporate world. And I usually have those sources that I tend to take, like when I carve out, you know, we're going back to our time. I tend to take some time, I would say like every, you know, couple of weeks around those sources and carve out time, you know, to like have my cup of tea and look through some of these things and read them. The other thing that I really like to do is I do listen to certain podcasts, they download. And I love to also get my vitamin D and take walks. So what I like to do is I put on, you know, a podcast that's kind of like teaching me something and keeping it fresh for me. So keeping it fresh for my clients, because I also like to suggest those things to them as well. And I like to listen to it and I like to vet, you know, okay, this is good. It's helpful to my business, but it's also helpful to the people that I serve, or it might be helpful to an offer that I want to make. And so I do that as well. And then, you know, I pick which 2 or 3 conferences that I feel I want to attend in the year when I think about the things that I really want to learn. And the other thing that I think is great is something like this, like exchanges with your peers, people that are doing things in the business that can also say, hey, I tried this. Oh, I learned this. You know, these forums are great because you can learn a lot, but you also get ideas like, wow, I didn't even know that resource existed. I didn't even know I could do it like this. That to me is also very beneficial in learning and keeping things fresh and up to date. So, and, you know, every once in a while I get together with individuals that are either business owners, maybe they're doing something completely different or they're doing something similar to me. And I try and say, hey, you know what, let's go to dinner, let's meet up, you know, somewhere and like really just talk and like kind of have an exchange and learn from each other. Those are just some of the ways that I learn and keep it fresh. One thing that's really important is you also learn from your clients. So you might find that someone that you're working with brings in something you didn't know existed. Or let's say that you have an offer, or let's say you have a product or something, and someone says, oh my God, I saw something similar on. It's a wonderful thing to go back and say, oh, I didn't know that, right? Like you learn. So just listening to the people that I also serve and work with helps me to learn a lot too.
Spoken like a true psychotherapist. I love that.
Because you're right, that is.
You do. You get so much value about those that you work with, and in your space, incredibly deep learnings, because people are more vulnerable and then more sharing a lot with you in that personal way. But I absolutely love that. I think it's so important that we do separate that time to stay current, stay present for ourselves, to reevaluate where we're at, to be constantly renewing and growing. And that's why these summits are so fantastic. And I'm just so thrilled that we can have them every 3 months and have such high caliber speakers come and share with us. I know more and more questions are going to come in from our listeners as they come in over this time. So I want you to be able to reach out to Babita. How about you just let us know? Just all your contact details will be in our summit information. But how about you just share that with us, Babita? Where can they find you, and how would you love to connect with anyone who would love to know a little bit more?
Sure. You could go to my website, Babita Spinelli Group, and just contact me there. All my information is there. Also on Instagram, Babita Spinelli. I always love to put out resources, and LinkedIn. Probably the best way, but you will also see a phone number, and I actually do love conversation. So, anyone needs help with anything or support or wants to ask me a question, you can also call and we can have a conversation.
Fantastic. Let's start it always with a conversation. I love that. Always be personal first. People do business with people, not companies. They do it with people. And that's been a very big learning of mine, that connect with people. That's why this is great. Definitely anyone who drops your details, just pop that in the chat as well. And I will forward that detail over to Babita if you've got a specific question. You'd love to reach out with her directly. Everyone here of our speakers are very approachable, very easy to connect with. So definitely start it with a conversation. Thank you so much for your sharing today, Babita. It's been absolutely a wonderful way to start our summit off. Oh my goodness, I'm just feeling super pumped as well. And we're now going to move over to our next speaker.